There's something magical that happens the moment your brain encounters something new. Not necessarily profound, just new. A question you hadn't asked before. A pattern that makes you pause. A detail you somehow missed yesterday but can't stop thinking about today. That flicker you feel, that little jolt of interest, of what is that? That's your brain waking up. It's your mind stretching, reaching, leaning forward with a hunger that's ancient. Your brain is a survival machine, yes, but it's also a meaning maker. It doesn't just want to function, it wants to understand. And it thrives when it's given puzzles to solve, concepts to untangle, or ideas to chase. When you feed it novelty, something it hasn't seen, done, or thought before, you activate what scientists call neuroplasticity. That's your brain's way of making new connections, new pathways, new ways of thinking. You're literally shaping your own mind every time you expose it to something unfamiliar. And you don't need to be an academic or a philosopher to benefit from this. It could be a jigsaw puzzle, a brain teaser, a new podcast topic, learning 5 words in a language you don't speak. Even changing your morning routine slightly can create a spark. The key is intention and frequency, because when you stop feeding your curiosity, your brain starts to dim a little. You might notice it as boredom, mental fatigue, or low motivation, but often it's just a sign your mind is craving something fresh. And the beautiful thing, it doesn't care if you're good at the new thing. It just wants something to play with, to explore, to challenge itself against. You don't have to do it perfectly. In fact, it's better if you don't, because struggle is where the spark really lights up, where neurons fire in unfamiliar directions, where your brain says, wait, I've never done this before. Let's figure it out. So whether it's a new book, a strange fact, a different perspective, or just a question you don't yet know how to answer, follow it, chase it. Let your mind be wide. Let it wander, because curiosity isn't a phase, it's fuel. And the more you feed it, the more vibrant and resilient your brain becomes. Your spark isn't childish. It isn't naive. It's the very thing that keeps your inner world alive. Keep asking, keep learning, stay lit. We often think of movement as something physical, a task for the body, a thing you do to stay in shape. But what we forget is that the brain is deeply, intimately wired to motion. When you move, your brain doesn't just passively ride along, it lights up. Neuroscience has shown that regular physical movement increases blood flow to the brain, boosts memory function, reduces anxiety, and stimulates the release of endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that can cut through brain fog like a breeze through a musty room. But beyond the science, there's something even more ancient happening. When you walk, stretch, dance, or just sway in rhythm to a song, your brain begins to shift. Thoughts start to flow more easily. Stress loosens its grip. Solutions that felt just out of reach suddenly land gently in your lap. Why? Because the body and brain are not two systems. They are one system speaking in rhythm, balancing each other constantly. It's why some of your clearest thinking happens on a walk. Why conversations feel easier when your hands are doing something. Why a slow yoga flow or simple morning stretch can flip the switch on a mentally heavy day. Movement creates momentum, not just in your limbs, but in your thoughts. It pulls you out of spirals, out of screens, out of stagnation. And you don't have to become a marathon runner or a gym enthusiast to reap the rewards. In fact, gentle, intentional movement often has the deepest effect. A walk outside, a stretch session before bed, dancing while you cook. Even standing up and rolling your shoulders after sitting too long can reset your mental rhythm. The brain isn't meant to sit still all day. It was shaped by motion, shaped while foraging, exploring, running, climbing, adapting. And even now, in our screen-heavy world, it still whispers, move with me. Wake me up. Exercise sharpens focus. It stabilizes mood. It even protects long-term cognitive function, slowing the aging process of the brain. But beyond the benefits, movement can become something sacred, a daily check-in with your thoughts, your breath, your body. A reminder that healing isn't always found in stillness. Sometimes it comes through flow. So when your mind feels heavy, foggy, or restless, don't overthink it. Just move, even a little. You might be surprised by what clears, what returns, and what awakens the moment your body remembers how to lead. We often treat sleep as an afterthought, a thing we have to do at the end of the day, a pause between today's chaos and tomorrow's demands. But the brain knows better. Sleep is not a shutdown. It's a secret workshop where some of your mind's most essential work quietly takes place. When you close your eyes and drift off, your brain begins. It sorts, it files, it clears out the clutter of the day, not just memories and to-do lists, but emotional residue you didn't even realize you were carrying. Your dreams are not random static. They're part of this deep neurological process, a blend of emotional processing, problem-solving, and subconscious storytelling. It's your brain making sense of things, behind the scenes. Sleep is when short-term memories become long-term ones. It's when the nervous system calms, when your stress hormones level out, and when your mind has space to repair. When we're sleep-deprived, the effects are immediate and harsh. Our mood dips, focus fractures, even our ability to regulate emotions begins to unravel. A well-rested brain is calmer, clearer, and far more capable of navigating the complexity of daily life. And yet, we often resist it. We try to outwork exhaustion. We stare at glowing screens, hoping our minds will somehow shut down on command. We wear our sleeplessness like a badge of productivity. But true clarity never comes from burnout. It comes from restoration. Think of sleep as your mind's overnight reset, a sacred ritual that scrubs away overstimulation, rewires tangled thoughts, and replenishes creative energy. You don't just wake up rested, you wake up rewired, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Even small shifts, turning off devices earlier, dimming the lights, creating a sleep ritual, send a signal to your brain, you're safe to let go now. And in that letting go, something magical happens. Ideas you couldn't force during the day arrive softly in the morning. Emotions that once felt jagged smooth themselves out. What felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Because sleep doesn't just rest the body, it renews the soul of your mind. So tonight, when the world goes quiet, don't fight the fade. Honor it. Let your thoughts dissolve. Let your body sink, and let your brain do what it was born to do: restore, rebuild, and remind you that tomorrow you get to begin again. The human brain is designed to evolve, to grow, to stretch into new shapes with every idea it encounters. And yet, somewhere along the path of adulthood, we're quietly told that learning is for the young, that once school ends, so does the era of curiosity. We're nudged into repetition, into routine, into autopilot, as if growth has an expiration date. But the truth is more powerful than that. Your brain doesn't just benefit from continued learning, it depends on it to stay alive. Every time you try something new, even if you're terrible at it, your mind builds fresh neural pathways. It adapts, it updates itself, and in doing so, it stays young. Think of your brain like a garden. Without new seeds, it withers. But when you plant unfamiliar ideas, stretch toward difficult topics, or wrestle with uncertainty, you're tilling the soil. You're keeping it alive and fertile. Learning doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't mean reading thick textbooks or enrolling in a course, unless you want to. It can be as simple as learning to cook a new dish, reading a book outside your comfort zone, listening to a podcast that challenges your perspective, trying a new creative skill, badly at first, because it's not about mastery, it's about engagement. Your brain doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to be curious enough to begin. Studies show that people who continue learning throughout life have better memory retention, greater emotional resilience, and a reduced risk of cognitive decline. But even beyond the science, there's something sacred in it. Learning keeps your world wide. It keeps you connected to others, to culture, to mystery. It keeps your story moving forward. And when life becomes heavy, when everything feels predictable or numb, often what you need isn't escape, it's expansion. A mind that is learning is a mind that is alive. It doesn't grow stale. It doesn't close itself off. It remains open, fluid, awake. So if you've been feeling stuck, foggy, or restless, ask yourself this: when was the last time you learned something just because? Let yourself stumble. Be a beginner again. Try something you don't fully understand. Because if your mind isn't growing, it's shrinking. And you were never meant to shrink. You were meant to expand forever. In a world that never stops shouting, silence can feel almost unnatural, uncomfortable, even threatening. We fill our days with music, podcasts, background noise, not just for entertainment, but to escape the stillness. And yet, silence is exactly what the brain craves. Not forever, just enough to reset, enough to recalibrate the nervous system, enough to make space for thought and feeling and breath. Silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the presence of clarity. When you remove the noise, the constant scroll, the background buzz of opinions and updates, you start to hear your own voice again. Your thoughts slow down, not to a stop, but to a rhythm. Your nervous system begins to regulate, and your brain, that brilliant, overworked processor, finally gets to rest without shutting off. This is why silence is so essential. It's a nutrient your mind doesn't always know how to ask for, but always benefits from. Even 5 minutes of quiet can reset your mental tempo. A walk without your phone, a pause before replying, sitting in stillness with a cup of tea, these small acts are deceptively powerful. They tell your brain, you don't have to solve anything right now. You don't have to absorb more. You can just be. We often think productivity is the result of doing more, but some of the most powerful shifts happen in the space between effort. In those moments when we stop input and allow integration to begin, silence makes room for wisdom, for patterns to emerge, for insights to rise from the depths instead of being forced to the surface. And it's not about living in a monastery or abandoning your digital life. It's about creating gentle pauses, carving out moments where your mind can stretch out instead of collapse. Stillness is not a luxury, it's a maintenance tool, a gentle act of repair. And the more overstimulated you feel, the more you've been chasing, scrolling, refreshing, the more you need it. So give yourself permission to unplug, not as punishment, but as nourishment. Let silence feed your focus. Let quiet sharpen your clarity. Let the absence of noise reveal the presence of self, because the world will always be loud, but within you, there is a stillness that can't be shaken. You don't need more input. You need more inner space, and silence is how you find it.